What if the most unpredictable pirate in cinema history isn't done sailing just yet? What if the compass is pointing back to chaos, rum bottle sword fights, and that unmistakable swagger? For years fans believed the journey was over, that the tides had finally turned, but whispers are growing louder, studio doors are quietly opening, and the question is no longer impossible, it's inevitable. Is Captain Jack Sparrow coming back, or is this the greatest misdirection in pirate history? Today we dive deep into what's really happening behind the scenes, why 2026 matters, and how the legend of the Black Pearl might rise again. For years, the idea of Captain Jack Sparrow returning felt like a story told in taverns, a rumor exaggerated with every retelling, something fans wanted to believe but didn't dare to trust. After everything that happened around the franchise, many assumed the door was firmly shut, that Disney had chosen to sail in a new direction, leaving its most iconic pirate behind. Yet the world of Pirates of the Caribbean has never followed straight lines. It thrives on curves, detours, betrayals, and surprises, and that is exactly why the conversation has quietly changed. The silence from official sources has not meant closure. Instead, it has created space for speculation, negotiations, and slow, careful planning behind closed doors. Franchises of this scale do not make loud moves without preparation, and when a character is as culturally powerful as Captain Jack Sparrow, every decision becomes strategic, not emotional. The legacy of the franchise is impossible to ignore. From the first film, the character didn't just steal gold or ships, he stole the spotlight. Audiences didn't connect with him because he was brave or noble, they connected because he was flawed, unpredictable, selfish, and strangely honorable in his own twisted way. That kind of character does not fade easily. Even years after his last appearance, fan discussions never stopped, conventions still echo with his quotes, merchandise still sells, and every new rumor trends instantly. Studios notice these things because attention is currency, and Captain Jack Sparrow still holds immense value in that economy. As plans for the future of Pirates of the Caribbean evolved, multiple ideas surfaced: reboots, spin-offs, female-led stories, darker tones, lighter tones, but none of them managed to capture the same excitement among the general audience. Some projects stalled, some were quietly reworked, and others faded into development limbo. What remained constant was one truth: whenever the franchise was mentioned, the first question was always the same: where is Captain Jack Sparrow? This repeated reaction slowly reshapes priorities, because studios may want to innovate, but they also need to satisfy loyal fans and investors at the same time. 2026 enters the conversation not as a random year but as a window, a strategic moment, long enough for dust to settle and relationships to be repaired, but close enough to reignite interest. The entertainment industry often works on long timelines. Discussions that seem sudden to the public are usually years in the making. Meetings, conversations, legal considerations, and creative negotiations happen far from headlines. What leaks out are fragments, hints that something is being considered, not promised but not dismissed either. One of the biggest misunderstandings among fans is the belief that returns are always announced quickly. In reality, high-profile characters, especially ones tied to controversy, require delicate handling, image management, legal clarity, and narrative justification. All have to align. Bringing back Captain Jack Sparrow isn't just about writing him into a script, it's about ensuring the return feels earned, respectful, and meaningful, not a desperate cash grab. Audiences today are sharper than ever. They recognize forced nostalgia instantly, which is why any comeback must serve the story first. Story-wise, the pirate universe still has room for him. Captain Jack Sparrow was never given a true farewell. His last appearance left him alive, wandering, and unchanged, which in storytelling language means unfinished business. Characters who die or sacrifice themselves offer closure, but Jack was left drifting, and that is intentional, whether planned or not. It keeps the door open. Pirates is a world of curses, lost seas, and unfinished legends. A character like Jack does not need to be the center of the storm to be essential. Sometimes a single appearance, a guiding moment, or a twist can redefine the entire narrative. Another factor often overlooked is how franchises evolve with their audience. The fans who grew up watching pirates are now adults with nostalgia, disposable income, and emotional attachment. Studios are acutely aware of this generational shift. Revivals, sequels, and legacy returns dominate modern cinema because they work when done right. Captain Jack Sparrow represents an era of blockbuster filmmaking that balanced humor, adventure, and originality, something audiences increasingly crave again. Behind the scenes, there is also the reality of creative voices, writers, producers, and directors who understand that the soul of Pirates is not ships or treasure but character chemistry. Jack's interactions with others drive the tone. Remove him entirely and the world feels different, not necessarily bad but unfamiliar, and when familiarity is part of a brand identity, removing it entirely becomes risky, especially when competition for attention is fiercer than ever. It's also important to understand that a return does not automatically mean the same role or screen time. Expectations shift, characters age, narratives mature, and legends transition. Captain Jack Sparrow could return as a catalyst rather than a lead, someone who sets events in motion, challenges new characters, or delivers the kind of chaos only he can. That approach allows respect for the past while opening doors for the future, a passing of the compass rather than a full reclaiming of the wheel. The silence from official channels continues, but silence in Hollywood rarely means nothing. It often means negotiations are ongoing and leaks are being controlled carefully. Every word matters, every reaction is measured. Fan responses to even vague mentions are analyzed because studios test the waters long before they sail the ship. A single positive trend can reshape months of planning, and Captain Jack Sparrow consistently generates waves without effort. What makes this moment different from previous years is not a single announcement, but the pattern. Conversations have shifted from impossible to possible, from denial to cautious curiosity. Insiders speak less definitively, fans notice the tone change, interviews avoid hard no answers, and language becomes flexible. When definitive statements disappear, it usually means options are being preserved. For the Pirate Saga, 2026 represents more than a date, it represents timing, when nostalgia aligns with opportunity, when the market is ready, and when a legend can return without feeling forced. Captain Jack Sparrow has always thrived on perfect timing, appearing when least expected, slipping through cracks others didn't see, and surviving storms that should have ended him if his story were to continue. This would be the moment, not as a simple comeback but as a calculated return that honors what came before while steering towards something new. And as the winds shift and the seas grow restless, the question lingers, not shouted but whispered across the horizon, whether through a single scene, a full adventure, or a surprise twist. The possibility remains alive because legends like Captain Jack Sparrow don't simply disappear, they wait, they watch, and when the compass finally points true, they sail again. And that idea of waiting has always been central to who Captain Jack Sparrow is. He is not a hero who charges forward, he survives by stepping sideways, by letting others underestimate him, by arriving late and leaving early. His power has never been strength or leadership but timing, which is why the notion of his return fits so naturally into silence rather than spectacle. If Jack were to come back, it would not begin with trumpets or banners, it would begin with absence, followed by a grin, a footstep, a familiar slur of words that tells the audience he was here all along, just off screen. The industry itself has changed since the last time pirates ruled the box office. Cinematic universes now dominate the landscape. Long-form storytelling is more common, and characters are allowed to breathe across projects rather than burn out in a single run. This creates new possibilities for a character like Captain Jack Sparrow, who thrives in fragments, moments, and disruptions rather than traditional arcs. He doesn't need a clean beginning, middle, and end. He exists to complicate things, and modern storytelling welcomes that kind of chaos. Another important layer is audience trust. When a franchise disappears for too long, people move on, but Pirates never truly vanished. It lingered in streaming charts, late-night reruns, and cultural references. The music alone still triggers instant recognition. This lingering presence keeps emotional investment alive, and when emotional investment exists, a return feels like reunion, not revival. That difference matters because one feels earned while the other feels manufactured. From a narrative standpoint, there are countless doors still open, unresolved curses, unexplored seas, and consequences left behind. Jack has made enemies across oceans and allies in the most unlikely places. The world he inhabits is too large for a single ending, and that flexibility gives writers room to reintroduce him without rewriting history. A rumor in a port, a warning whispered by a sailor, or a map marked with symbols only he would recognize. These subtle story tools allow his presence to be felt before it is seen. There is also the psychological element of mystery. Audiences crave certainty, but they are drawn to uncertainty, which is why speculation fuels engagement. Every unanswered question keeps the conversation alive. Captain Jack Sparrow is uniquely suited to this because uncertainty is his natural state. Even when he speaks the truth, it sounds like a lie, and when he lies, it often leads to truth. Building a return around that ambiguity respects the character rather than forcing clarity. Financial considerations inevitably play a role, but reducing a potential return to money alone ignores the reputational stakes involved. A poorly handled comeback could damage both the character and the franchise, which is why any move forward must be cautious, measured, and intentional. Studios today are acutely aware of backlash culture and long-term brand health. A rushed decision would satisfy no one. Patience, on the other hand, allows time for creative alignment and audience readiness. Another subtle shift is the way fans now engage. They are no longer passive viewers. They analyze leaks, decode interviews, and track industry patterns. Collective intelligence moves fast, and studios monitor these reactions closely. The sustained interest in Captain Jack Sparrow across platforms is data, not noise. It signals that the character still resonates across age groups, cultures, and regions, something few modern characters achieve. A return could also reframe the franchise tone. Pirates was never meant to be overly serious or grounded. Its charm lay in balance, danger mixed with absurdity. Captain Jack Sparrow embodies that balance. Remove him and the scale tips, reintroduce him and the world regains its rhythm, not because he dominates but because he disrupts expectations. The idea of legacy is also evolving. Characters once expected to bow out gracefully are now allowed to exist beyond traditional endings. They become myths within their own stories. Jack already occupies that space. Sailors tell tales about him, some true, some exaggerated, and that narrative device could easily translate to screen, allowing him to appear as legend before man, presence before body. Timing again becomes crucial. Releasing a story too soon risks fatigue, waiting too long risks irrelevance. 2026 sits in a cultural pocket where nostalgia has matured and audiences are hungry for originality disguised as familiarity. Pirates offers that blend, and Captain Jack Sparrow is its most recognizable symbol. The absence of denial matters as much as the absence of confirmation. Hard no statements, closed doors, and none have been firmly locked. Language remains careful, non-committal, and open-ended in an industry where words are contracts that restraint is telling. If and when the return happens, it will likely be unexpected, not announced years in advance but revealed close to release, allowing shock and excitement to drive conversation. Jack has always appeared when least expected and disappearing just as suddenly. A surprise reveal honors that spirit far more than a slow marketing buildup. Ultimately, the question is not whether Captain Jack Sparrow can return but whether the story benefits from it, and all signs point to a universe that still has room for his shadow. Even if his screen time is limited, his influence would ripple across the narrative, reminding audiences why this world captured imaginations in the first place. Pirates has always been about freedom, defiance, and rewriting rules. Jack represents all three, and as long as those themes remain relevant, his compass will never stop spinning. The seas are quiet for now, but quiet waters have never meant the end of a pirate's journey, only the pause before the tide turns. If you believe the compass hasn't stopped spinning and Captain Jack Sparrow still has one last trick up his sleeve, now is the time to stay close to the horizon. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates as the tides begin to shift. Share this with every pirate fan who still hears the Black Pearl's call, and drop your thoughts below. Do you want a full return, a surprise cameo, or a passing of the legend? Your voice matters, and in a world built on whispers and rumors, sometimes the loudest signal comes from the fans. Now steady your course, the sea isn't done with us yet.